the whole day is just has 5 parts and then an end. So I guess what it's done is just made my day-to-day life much easier and much easier to regulate. When March 15 happened, I was actually doing a residential course to deal with anxiety, and it made a massive help, and I wouldn't have probably even become a Muslim if it wasn't for that course, at least not then. So dealing with mental health issues, Islam is incredible. When I go to the masjid, you never have anxiety, you never have any negative feelings about anything, and being around Muslim people has the same effect on me. So being around Muslims by itself helps me a lot in my own mental health. And it's really, I have no mental health issues whatsoever. And I was getting massive panic attacks before March 15, and during that period. But after, once I became part of an amazing community, I still get anxious. Everyone gets anxious about things, but I don't have that horrible, purposeless anxiety about something you don't even know what it is. You don't ever get that anymore. So it's the day-to-day regulation of my life is actually probably the best thing. It just means that everything just works seamlessly now. When March 15 happened, I was doing this anxiety course, and the one thing I got out of that was it made me realise I have to treat people more kindly. I have to, instead of seeing somebody acting out and telling them, no, stop doing that, instead of doing that, I would be much more likely to approach them and say, is something going wrong? Is there something I can help you with? And that works well for an anxiety, but it works even better when you become a Muslim, because now, because of our understanding of how we get credit for all of the things that we do. I was always looking out to help people if I could. I like helping people, it's fun and it makes you feel good. But Islam spells it out very clearly, and it's really great to teach kids this idea of just try and be looking out to help somebody out. Allah will always reward you if you do these things. Even to people that have no interest in religion, that's a really positive thing for any child to learn and for any adult to put into practice. So if you just follow being just a good Muslim, you are always going to have a good life. That's how I see it. If you want to look at a life where someone went astray, then you could definitely look at my life, because I did some really dumb things when I was young. And I always believed in God, but I did all sorts of stupid things. So anyone that goes astray in your life, it's never too late to change. It's only too late. Once you're dead, it's too late. But before that, you always have a chance to change yourself. Whether you're a Muslim that's straight off the straight and narrow path, or if you've never known anything about religion, you've always got that chance to gain eternity if you really want to. Now, religious instruction at schools can't really be done. Schools don't really allow that, but we do need something in New Zealand society to at least show young people that there is another side to life, that there's a spiritual dimension to everything we do. So it'd be nice to see some sort of just very basic spiritual instructions given to kids, but unfortunately we don't allow that. So all you can do is go out into the world and just demonstrate what being a good Muslim is, and just show people just by demonstration what Islam is about. One of the things I was told before I actually became Muslim, when I was at the Hagley Centre, many Muslims said to me, "You'll never see the media the same way again." So I was like, okay, that's fair enough. I spent 3 weeks at the Muslim Centre. I was around, an incredibly awful thing happened, but the spirit of the community at that centre was absolutely amazing. It was all positive, it was all loving, and it was all looking to the future. So it was only positive. And then after 3 weeks, I went home and watched the news for the first time in 3 weeks, and the first thing that was on the 6 o'clock news was about March 15, and it was all doom and it was all gloom and how awful it was for everybody. And I just realised, it's so easy to get a misimpression about a situation unless you're really in it. You know, we learn history out of books, but all we learn are sort of points of little points. We don't actually have the whole overview. So if you looked at March 15 just from the media's perspective, it would have been only bad. But if you looked at it from the community perspective, it was incredible, it was positive, and it was all good. So you do have to be careful the way you look and frame any event, especially something like March 15, because it was absolutely appalling and awful. But from that appalling and awful event, we have already gained huge amounts of positivity. We have shown, first New Zealand, how amazing Islam is. We've shown the Islamic world overseas how Muslims in a very bad situation can behave exemplary and really just show the whole world how great Islam really is. And it's given, hopefully anyway, it's given young people that may not have ever thought about any kind of religious ideas, it might make them ask a question, which would be something like, how can these people with all this terrible things happening still be so positive and still be so loving? If you can make someone ask themselves that question, then maybe you can go to the next step and actually start talking to them about what faith really is and everything that goes with it. So, you know, crisis brings opportunity, I guess is what that boils down to. And we may not have done the very best out of the opportunity we've got, but most of us anyway, really tried to bring something positive out of March 15. We owe it to those that were martyred, we owe it to everybody who's left afterwards, and we owe it to Islam, to Muslims, to really make every attempt we can to turn something negative into a positive. And I believe we have. I really do. I do a lot of volunteering now compared to what I used to do, and a lot of that is simply because I'm a Muslim now. And I've found relationships with other faith groups have improved incredibly. I was quite antagonistic towards most Christians once. Now I only relate to them in a positive way. Christians are always interested in what Muslims, in Christchurch anyway, have always been very interested that I've dealt with about Islam. So I get a lot of questions from Christians now, and they're always good questions. So I think overall, we've just been trying to demonstrate how to behave when things go wrong, and yeah, I think mostly we've done a good job. I was always a relatively independent person, but one thing I did feel when I became Muslim is that you've moved out of one group, Pākehā Kiwi, and you're moving to another group, Muslim or Revert Muslim, and at some point in that movement you're sort of caught right in the middle, and you're not quite sure whether you're a Revert Muslim or a Kiwi who's a Revert Muslim or what else. You do. There's definitely a point where you have you have to question exactly what your place is in all of this society. So that was definitely a thing. I had quite a lot of anxiety about that. I definitely had anxiety about praying properly and general Islamic practice. But in terms of the faith and all of the teachings of Islam, everything is, I've never had any problems there whatsoever. Everything has been always been interesting, and it's always been a revelation to me. So it's really in the more basic nuts and bolts stuff. I've got no problem with giving up pork or anything like that. That was easy. Alcohol had already done that. It's really just just basic day-to-day stuff that first definitely I found difficult. First thing is you really need to talk to actual Muslims. I mean, you could look online, and that is totally fine for some things like praying times and how to do the basic prayers and things. But I think for if you have real questions, you need to talk to a Muslim person who, and as a born Muslim, I would not suggest you necessarily go to a revert. I would go to somebody who is, and that means you have to either, if you don't know someone, you'll have to go to the masjid and ask, because there's always going to be questions you're going to have to ask yourself. But just be patient. be kind on yourself. You're going to make mistakes, and don't sweat that too much. As long as they're honest mistakes, it's never a problem. And just be patient, because it does take time. You don't instantly go from one to the other. I've never had an opportunity to sort of mix those two groups together. I've never actually done that. So it'd be interesting to know I would say almost certainly, because the sort of people that I've been friends with are vaguely similar to me, I would say it would actually be a really great meeting. That would be really interesting. We should definitely do that sometime. But I've never done that. At first, I felt sort of like I was a Kiwi playing a role of a Muslim, and then as time went on, that feeling of, I wouldn't call it imposter syndrome, but that feeling of sort of being slightly not quite right, that just disappears, and you just got to keep doing it, and being able to recite basic scripture, at least being able to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, that once you can do that, then that helps a lot. Then you've at least got one prayer you can go straight to and not have to feel silly about. But I think just be patient, and don't try and rush things. Just do it at the pace that you feel, because unless it's authentically really who you are, it won't last long. You might be able to keep it up for a year or two, but it won't work. So you have to really and truly want to do it, obviously, but then just try and spend as much time around Muslims as you can. Very much like to see Islam become more popular in New Zealand. Everybody that I know that's become a revert has found it's improved their life at least in many ways, usually. I would love to see more faith in New Zealand. I know there's a huge number of people that do believe in Allah that are either too embarrassed or for some other reason won't express their faith in any kind of public way. So it would be nice to kind of encourage people to come out of the woodwork and just say, look, I believe in God, I believe in Allah. You don't have to make a big deal about it. I think it's easy to think that New Zealand's more or less an atheist country now, but it's not. There are heaps of people with faith, they just don't tell people about it anymore. So if we could encourage just basic conversations around what it means to have faith in God and what it means to have a faith community, that would be wonderful. But I'd love to see a huge increase in Muslims in New Zealand. It could only be good for New Zealand. It really would be great. I've got a lot of Māori friends who are Muslim, and Māori culture and Islamic culture are very, very, very similar. So that works really well. I think, I would just love to see Islam become more popular overall. And I would really love to see the New Zealand government bring more migrants in from Muslim countries. That would really be great. We need to massively increase the population of New Zealand to get a reasonable economy of scale. So I think Muslim countries would be perfect for New Zealand. The more we can get, the better. So that's what I'd love to see as well. It's a combination of more people becoming reverts, but also more actual Muslims from other countries coming. That would be great.